Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Bass Chaplain Fishing Podcast. We're Faith in Fishing Hookup. It's been a while, but we're back and trying to get ready for the Nitro Bass Boat giveaway. Now, about 7 years, I started a boat giveaway as the primary way to fundraise for Well-Spoken Ministries. That's my ministry, and the boat giveaway is our number one fundraiser. It has changed the whole game for us and allowed us to do the things that we would never ever be able to do. In 2021, I believe it was the last day, the day we're going to give away the boat. And a guy called me about 11 o'clock and he said, "Hey, I'm from Durant, Oklahoma." He says, "Is it too late to get in the bass boat giveaway?" And I said, "No, we're going to take tickets till 4 o'clock." He said, "Well, my name is Tim White," and he bought 2 tickets. Well, Tim ended up winning the boat that year. Well, Tim really didn't fish. And so, but he thought, maybe God dropped this boat in my lap. So he started bass fishing, and then he started using that boat to lead people to Jesus, to share about the life-changing message of Jesus Christ. So I'm very excited today on the podcast to have Tim Durant, 2021 boat winner, and we're going to have a good time. He's become a good friend. So stay tuned. If you hadn't hit that subscribe button, hit it, and stay tuned. We'll be right back at the Bass Chaplain Fishing Podcast, where faith and fishing hook up. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Bass Chaplain Fishing Podcast. And listen, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, do that. Do the subscribe button. I got as my guest today, Tim White. Tim, welcome. We are so excited that you're here today, man.
Yes, sir. I was one of the first subscribers of the slowest growing podcast ever.
America's slowest growing podcast, yes, and we still are. We still have that you have that moniker, man. We're so happy to have you. So Tim, now tell me, you won was it the 2021 boat? Was that the boat that you won?
Sure, it was. I like to say it was the best one ever given away.
You know what? And the boat that we've got this year, I really like a lot. But that boat that you won was my favorite color of all time. You got the kind of the concrete and burgundy color, and that was a really cool boat. It really was.
Yeah.
So.
And actually, your one this year is blue, and blue is one of my favorite colors. But I've come to really love the one that I got.
Oh man, yeah, I tell you that was a good run. But you got one of the last 175s that we gave away, wasn't that right? Didn't you get the 175?
Yeah. I remember when getting it from you. I asked you how fast it would go, and you said maybe about 62. And I said, I don't think I'm ever going to go 62 because I've never owned a boat. And then one of the first days that it was nice and calm, headed back to the ramp, I decided to see what it would do, and I got to 62.
Wow. Well, good deal.
Yeah.
Well, let's recap down here. So what I've told the folks out there, this is how it happened. This is how I remember it in my mind, though. It was the day of the giveaway.
Yep.
We're giving away, and I'm walking around Cabela's, and my phone rings, and I said, I got to take this call because I put it out there that you can call or, do it by mail. And you said, "Hey, are you still doing that boat giveaway thing?" And I said, "Yeah." You said, "Is it too late to get out?" No. And I had never met you up until that point. Never met you. And now we're going to be lifelong friends. I've come
Absolutely.
to stay at your house. We're on a men's group together every Tuesday night on the Zoom call, and so tell me about that day and what prompted you to buy a ticket. Where did you see it, and just run us through that whole day.
It goes into quite a bit of a story actually, because everybody started fishing during COVID, and I'm 55 now, and so I was 50 at that time basically, and I didn't really fish any most of my life, except for when me and my wife first met in college, and her dad had some land, and she took me pond hopping a couple of times, and I thought it was fun, but it wasn't like my passion or anything. And then we had kids, and so we were doing sports and all of those things, and I never really fished, and so towards the end of 2021, I hopped on. We started fishing a little bit, and I realized how much I liked it. And Robin realized how much she still loved it. And we hopped on Craigslist and got a little 10-foot Pelican Bass Raiders, what it's called, with a trolling motor. that you could pond hop and go in little small waters with. And since I have a restaurant, I called it my Taco Mayo yacht because it was all I could afford. And the thing with that is you have to make sure you don't hook each other because you're sitting so close to each other.
Right.
And anyway, saw a social media post from Edwin Evers, and I'd had him in a couple of classes in college, and he was talking about your giveaway. And I researched, and I thought, man, that's a cool ministry. I'll go ahead and support that. And hopped in the year before, and didn't win, and wasn't given to win anything. And then, man, the next year in 2021, there's a little bit of a testimony there, but I'd made some mistakes business wise that almost cost me everything, accounting wise, and
Mm.
just had lost interest in doing what I'd done for a long time. And so at the end of the day, I I was going to owe quite a bit of money to the IRS, and I wasn't sure whether we were going to have a house or whether we were going to have a business or anything. And I had neglected to tell my wife all of these things because pride got the best of me.
Mm.
And I thought that I could fix all of it on my own. And finally came a day that I got a call from an IRS agent, and he went up one side of me and down the other like I'd never been talked to, but all I could do was be humble. And I told my wife about it, and I'll never forget. She wasn't happy, but she said, if it wasn't for God's grace and forgiveness, I couldn't extend grace and forgiveness to you.
Mm.
And wow. So I didn't even know what to say. I just hit my knees every day after that in prayer. And anyway, long story short, Christmas time rolls around and it's the week before Christmas. And I look and it pops up and I said, oh man, he's having his boat giveaway again today. And I said, I don't know that we've got anything to give. We've given all we can give. And I got this debt looming over my head and I'm not sure what we're going to have. And so I sat there for a few hours and felt convicted. And finally, I just felt so convicted that I made the phone call and said, hey, is it too late to get in? And you were like, no. And I hopped in and got a couple of chances. And 4 o'clock that afternoon, I hop on my wife's Facebook and all of a sudden you draw the name Tim White. And I'm at a loss. I don't even know what to say. I just lost all feeling at that time. And I go in and I rewind the video and I show it to my wife, and she's doing laundry, and she looks at me and she goes, is this real? And I said, yeah. And she grabs me by the arm and squeezes it real tight and goes, we're going fishing.
Well, let me
And
tell
then you
you.
make,
So and I want everybody, know this, so you know about the buggy way. That day, we drew a random kid out of Cabela's. We just picked a random guy. We said, "Hey, will you come draw, some boat tickets for us?" And we give away 10, rods and reels. It was rods and reels at the time. It's reels now. And we found out that it's hard to mail rods to people, but so we give away loose reels. And we picked a random kid, and they pull all the names out, and so we jump. I mean, I probably jumble that thing up a million times. Rolling around, I roll it around every day. I just roll that tumbler every day, and do that. So you won the boat, okay?
yes, sir.
And so you've got a bass boat. You start bass fishing, and then all of a sudden, you have a ministry idea
Yeah.
about the bass. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So actually, the day after you drew my name, I said, you know what? Before I go to church, instead of doing my regular reading, I'm just going to put my hand in my Bible, something I don't normally do, and just flip open to wherever God leads me to. And I know some people go with that strategy every so often, but it's not normally mine. And I came to Philippians 4:10 through 20, and it was God's provision. And the Apostle Paul was, talking about how he learned to have a little, and he learned to have abound and have a lot, and that he could do all things through Christ who strengthens him, which was basically about contentment. But he also talked about the giving that the people of Philippi had done whenever he had been out doing his ministry, and that he wanted to. Actually, I have it right here because I kept it. But he talked about. Even in Thessalonica, you sent me to help for my needs once again, and not that I seek the gift, but I seek the fruit that increases to your credit. And I thought, man, I don't know if this was God's provision to sell to pay this debt that I was going to have that I didn't know what it was going to be, or if it was God's provision for something else. And actually, the day that I picked up the boat from you, I got a text from my loan officer at the bank, and I got an appraisal on my business to see what it was worth to have enough money to pay this debt. And I didn't want to answer it while I was getting the boat from you because I thought I don't want to steal my joy from today of winning a boat, you know.
Right.
And after I get it from you, I pull over on the side of the road and I read this text, and he says, your business is valued at X amount of dollars. You're good to borrow everything that you need to satisfy your debt. And
Wow. Wow.
man, winning a boat wasn't even the best thing that happened. It was the grace and forgiveness first from God and from my wife. After that, I just thought back to the scripture and I thought, man, how can I not share this with everybody? So I decided to put the Philippians 4:13 on there. I also put, fisher of men on the
So,
other
so you
side.
put it on the boat. You actually
Yes,
put it
sir.
on the boat that you won.
Yeah. Yep.
And so when you go to the boat ramps, everybody's seeing these Bible verses that are on
Yeah.
your boat now. So you're
Yep.
riding around with Bible verses on the boat that you won. So tell us a
Yes,
little bit
sir.
more. Now I imagine that started a few conversations.
It starts quite a few conversations. You get to the boat ramp, and some of the times people are like, "Man, that's a beautiful boat," and I'm like, "Yes, yes, sir, I want it." And they're like, "And we live in an area where we have a tribal casino," so they say, "At the casino?" And I said,
Yeah.
"No." I said, "Let me tell you how I did." And I have people at the gas pump some of the times. They're, "Man, that's a beautiful boat," you know. And then I tell the story, and I have some people. They're like, "Man, do you think I could win a boat?" And I said, "I don't know if you can win a boat or not. There's a possibility." I said, "But I know you can find a Lord and Savior, you know." And
Mm.
so then you came out with your devotional book with Blake Smith and James Niggemeyer, and it's 45 days and just enough for somebody to start a habit. So I started getting copies of that from you, and I keep them in the boat and in my truck, and I hand them out to people at the dock or kids that I run into, and take some kids that work with me that maybe don't have dads, and I just tell them, hey, here's the deal. Unless you can swim real well to get back to the dock, I'm going to share the gospel with you, and I'm going to share life, and if we catch some fish, that's just a bonus.
Man, that's awesome. But you won a boat and you turned it into a ministry. You felt the grace of God in your life. You experienced the grace of God in your life. You won the boat, put the Bible verses on it, but you didn't stop there. It's not just a thing. When anybody walks up to you, you tell them the story, and that leads into a gospel presentation. And then you've been taking my book, my devotional book, and handing them, a devotional as well. I tell you, I can't think of a better illustration of someone who actually said, okay, I've won this. A lot of guys would have, won the boat and they're like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna sell that sucker, or I'm gonna get rid of it, and that's fine. I mean, whatever people want to do, that's their boat. And
Yeah.
but you use that as a ministry opportunity, and every time you go out fishing, that boat is seen, and if people ask you about it, you get a chance to tell the story. Now, folks, let me tell you, that's the way you do evangelism with people. That's the way that you do it. It's is you use, and you don't necessarily need a boat. You just need a lead in for
Yeah.
someone to start a faith conversation. And one of the things I do when people ask me about what I do or anything like that is I always get back to my testimony. I always get back to how I came to know Jesus as my Lord and Savior. And that's and one of the things I share with people is that we need to learn how to tell our testimonies pretty quickly. You know,
Yes, sir.
and my testimony was simply I grew up going to church. I thought I was a Christian because I believed in God and I was
Yeah.
baptized, but it was at a fraternity party that God convicted me of my sin, and I did an old fashioned word called repent, and I turned from my sin and I trusted Jesus to be the Lord of my life, and now I spend time with Him on a regular basis, and He gives my life meaning and purpose. And then I ask those people, "Hey, has anything like this ever happened to you?" If they say no, I say, "Well, hey, can I tell you how it can happen to you?" Right now, and
Yeah.
so that's a pretty good deal. But you've had some pretty stunning testimonies. Now you are in the taco business, and so we call
Yes, sir.
you, people don't know that we call you Taco Tim, and I'm probably going to put that on the headline. Taco Tim wins a boat, starts a ministry, and
Hey, that's all right.
so yeah, that's pretty cool. So tell us about the taco business, man. Tell us about your business over there in Durant, Oklahoma.
You know, I'm not sure if I chose the business or if the business chose me, but it was my parents. We moved from Garland, Texas, to Durant, Oklahoma, to get in the taco business. My dad had always worked for a company called Colonial Bakery for all these years, and he knew the gentleman that started this franchise. And that gentleman asked my dad to go in with him back in when he got started in the late 70s, and it was a lot of money to him, and he didn't know if they were going to succeed, so he held off. And there was a gentleman who had three stores. He had one in his hometown and he had two further away, and he realized he couldn't take care of them. And so he wanted to sell both of them. And one of them was in Durant. And thankfully, I won't name the other town, but it wouldn't have been my first choice. I'm glad my parents chose Durant. So we end up in the taco business in December of 1983, and I was 14 and I'm 55 now, and I've been making tacos for 41 years, off and on. Was going to college during that time too, and it's just when I first got started, I thought it was all about acquiring material items and wealth, and
Mm,
my dad used to have a saying that money doesn't make the world go round, but it helps to grease the wheel.
mm,
And
yeah.
so it doesn't mean that we got to have a brand new truck or we got to have this house or all of these other things. We can get by. It goes back to that Philippians 4:10 through 20, you
Right.
know,
Exactly.
and so, during all of that time, really when I won the boat, because during that time and even just a few months after that, for a certain degree, I was at a low point, in life, just had sin in my life that I needed to get rid of. And the boat was an opportunity to change my perspective on things. And so I realized that, you know what? I've been looking at this completely wrong in business. And it's some people are called to go to missions across the world, and I think that's great. One of my
Mm,
sons was one of those ones who was going to do that at one point in time, and he couldn't because of COVID. But I realized that my mission field was my restaurant, and
mm,
on each side of my countertop, in the dining room with my customers, and in the kitchen with my employees. And so, I share with them all of the time, and I don't take credit. It's all God's glory. But one of the greatest things was, you know, probably about 5 weeks ago, me and my wife got to go watch one of my employees get baptized.
mm.
So,
Awesome. That's awesome.
yep.
You know, the Great Commissions is going to all the world and preach the gospel. Everything, but it really translate as you go throughout the world, as you go, and we're to be witnesses wherever God has put us. And that doesn't mean that you have to go on the mission field. I've got a son that's on the mission field right now, over in Central Asia, and but it doesn't mean you've got to go overseas. We're called to share where we are right there, and you can use bass fishing, you can use hunting, you can use tacos, you can use whatever it is that God has put in front of you, to share the gospel with people, and that's such an awesome testimony. Edwin Evers. I think you said you saw a post from Edwin Evers. Edwin Evers has been really good to us, Edwin, and
Hmm.
one guy won it one year from by seeing an Art Depot post, and
Yeah.
so all those guys have been really good about about posting the giveaway and stuff like that. But here's the thing: I really wish I could give everybody a boat. I mean, it
Oh,
is the
yeah.
greatest. When you make that call or you tell somebody, hey, you just want a boat, it is awesome. But there are so many other people that don't want a boat.
Yeah.
But what we try to tell them is this: you're not just trying to win a boat; you're funding a ministry, and
Yes,
and
sir.
that's the focus of it all. Is that the money that we raise goes to share the gospel with people. The boat that you won goes to share the gospel with people, and whatever we do, we need to understand that it all belongs to God, and
Yes,
uh,
sir.
and we're just stewards of it. And so that is a pretty awesome deal. So let me ask you a fishing question, Tim. So what's your
All right.
personal best fishing? Well, what's your personal best bass?
My personal best bass is just a little over 6 pounds, so it's not super big. I've been right next to other people that have caught 7 and 8s doing the same thing that I was doing. So it's when I hear you talk about that, some people, you believe that it's a God-given talent.
Mm.
Um, I know without a doubt, after being around some of those people and watching how they can put a lure in a place that's about the size of a quarter, that you go, Okay. You know,
That is
I'm not as good as
100% true. And I'll use an Oklahoma illustration. Jason Christie just won the MPFL over at Santee Cooper, which is actually my home lake. I grew up on Santee. I fished there more than any other lake I've ever fished. My brother was a bass guide, and I went out yesterday and tossed around a little bit to try to catch one. And I went to some of those Jason Christie trees, and I caught one bass. And so I got one bass, whereas Jason Christie can slay them. And I'm throwing the same bait, the same trees, the same deal. And
Yeah.
maybe a million other guys went through those trees as well.
You know, and
there's a reason I'm the chaplain and not on the tour. Okay.
well, you know, I'm a fair weather guy too, so I've realized that like 3 hours is my time.
Yeah.
I get pictures of sunsets and not sunrises most of the time, and you know, I go put in a short amount of time, and I realized that people are saying, "Why don't you enter a tournament?" So, well, first of all, I'm horrible, so I would just be wasting my money. Uh, and secondly, I said, I don't want to steal my joy from the thing that gives me peace and joy. You know, I never realized because I never had a boat. Once I've had it now, of just how much peace that there is out there to see a couple of bald eagles up in a tree, to see the deer come down to the water, and all of those things. And just, man, there's sometimes that I listen to a podcast or I might listen to an audiobook. There are other times that I'm just completely quiet and I just spend time in prayer while I'm fishing. Not normally about catching the fish, but I'm in prayer, you know. And
Man, you're gonna be a lot happier, in your life. We tournament fishing can ruin people. It really can. It can ruin people. Well, man, Tim, I'm excited, that you won the boat. I'm more
yeah,
excited about our friendship and how God's working in your life. And we
yes,
meet
sir.
every Tuesday night. We're going through a book called The Warrior Poet Way, and it's really been a cool book by John Lovell. And we got a group of guys really from all over the country. It was about 9 guys from all over the country, and we
Yeah,
meet up every Tuesday night and on Zoom call and talk about the chapters and talk about the Bible and pray for one another. And it's just been a great time. And I think we got
I've
about
been
3 more weeks of that, but maybe we'll keep it going, in some other
I've
ways.
I've enjoyed every minute of it, meeting different guys from all across the nation. You know, guys being vulnerable to share things as well. You know, just talking about that we all need accountability partners, you know, and we can't make it through this life on our own, and we got to have some people that tell us what we need to hear instead of what we want to hear, you know. And I know even through fishing, I've looked here lately because there's been some times here lately that I look and I go, have I gotten so wrapped up into this that I'm getting close to letting it become my idol, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've acquired more rods and reels, you know, I Edwin and Ott get half credit for me on the boat deal because I saw it from Edwin the first year, and the second year I started following Ott on YouTube and watching all of his videos and trying to learn things. And and then you told me about Hank Parker, and I had no idea who Hank Parker was. I didn't know who Bill Dance was. You know, I was pretty clueless as far as fishing goes, and now I probably know more than I should. And I made a post today about the boat giveaway on social media. And I said, hey, even if you can't give, just pray for Chris's
Mm,
ministry. I
that's exactly
said,
right.
but you're never poor for having given, you know, but you may be poor if you win a boat because now you've got more room to store fishing stuff and you
That's
acquire more
exactly right.
things.
I always say a boat is a hole where you throw money that you never get back, but it has brought a lot of joy, to a lot of people. Well, listen, folks, if you're ever in Durant, Oklahoma, okay, you need to go eat tacos. You need to go
Yes,
do
sir.
that, and you need to go by and see Taco Tim over there, and say hello. And who knows, he might give you a ride in his nitro bass boat that he won off of the
Yes,
Bass
sir.
Chaplain. Listen, if you want to buy a ticket, you can go to chriswells.org. But I want to reiterate something that Tim just said. And Tim doesn't know I'm going to say this, but Tim he called me a week or so back and said, "Look, he said I don't want to win another boat, but I'm gonna buy a couple of tickets and I'm gonna fill it out for some friends of mine, some employees of mine, and give them a chance, to win." And man, that was awesome. I appreciate that, and I appreciate
Yes,
our friendship. And if you want to get a ticket, you can go to chriswills.org. If you don't, just pray for us, please. Just pray for this ministry, that we'll just be faithful in doing what God has called us to do. And so, Tim, I appreciate you being on with me today, man.
yes, sir. It's pleasure is all mine, and maybe one day we'll get to fish again.
I hope so. I hope so. Well, folks, this is the Bass Chaplain Fishing Podcast, where faith and fishing hook up. And this podcast is going to be dropping at high noon on Friday. Hope you'll keep tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on the Bass Chaplain Fishing Podcast.